This Notebookalum video explores the extraordinary diversity and shifting demographics of Christianity. It also highlights the explosive growth of independent and Pentecostal churches. Once centered in Europe, the faith's demographic heart has shifted to sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, and Latin America, redefining Christianity as a global religion.
Let's talk about Christianity. It's this single faith that has shaped cultures and touched billions of lives all over the world. But here's the crazy part. It is anything but a single unified thing. Today, we're going to unpack its incredible and, honestly, pretty surprising diversity.
So let's just start with a question for you. Take a guess. Seriously, what's your gut feeling? How many different Christian denominations do you think are out there right now? A few hundred? Maybe a couple thousand?
The answer, according to the World Christian Database, is about 45,000. Yeah, you heard me right, 45,000. That number is just staggering, right? And it immediately makes you ask, how on earth did one faith, which started with just a small group of followers, splinter into so many pieces? And what makes that number even crazier is the sheer scale we're dealing with. We're talking about nearly 2.4 billion followers. That makes Christianity the largest religion on the planet. So when we talk about its diversity, we're really talking about the story of a huge chunk of humanity.
So, Section 1. One faith, 45,000 churches. To really get our heads around this wild figure, we first got to be clear on what we're actually counting.
So when we say denomination here, it's not just about some major split over beliefs. The researchers who came up with this number count each separate named network of churches within every single country. So a big global movement might have dozens of national branches, and yep, each one gets counted. This really shows that a lot of this diversity is cultural and organizational, not just theological. Section 2, the main family branches. Look, 45,000 is a lot. It's kind of impossible to grasp, so the only way to make sense of it is to zoom out and group them all into a few main family branches.
So, the big picture breaks down something like this. Roman Catholicism makes up about half of all Christians in the world. That makes it the biggest single church by far. Then you have Protestantism, which is this huge, diverse group, making up about 37%. And the ancient Orthodox traditions? They account for about 12%.
So let's quickly put some labels on these. Roman Catholicism, that's the massive top-down church led by the Pope in Rome. Protestantism is that incredibly varied collection of churches that exploded out of the Reformation in the 16th century. And Orthodoxy includes those ancient churches of the East, which actually split from the West way before the Protestants ever did. Section 3, the Great Historical Divides. Now, these branches didn't just appear out of thin air. They were forged in a few absolutely critical, world-changing moments that literally fractured the faith. Okay, let's do a quick history walkthrough of the three biggest moments. The first major break happened way back in 451 CE. It was a really deep theological fight over the nature of Christ, and it led to the Oriental Orthodox churches going their own way. Then you fast forward to 1054, the Great Schism. This is when the Western Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches officially called it quits after growing apart for centuries. And then, of course, the big one, 1517. Martin Luther kicks off the Protestant Reformation, which just completely shatters Western Christianity into countless new forms. This quote from Martin Luther, it just perfectly captures the whole spirit of the Reformation. It's all about this shift toward individual conscience, a belief that Scripture was more important than church hierarchy. And that very idea is what fueled not just the first break, but all the continuing diversification we see in Protestantism today.
But here is a really crucial point. This is not all ancient history. The modern engine of diversity, what's really driving the numbers up now in the 20th and 21st centuries, is the absolutely explosive growth of independent, charismatic, and Pentecostal churches. These movements have created thousands of new, locally run denominations, especially in the global South.
Section 4, Christianity's shifting map. So this modern growth isn't just adding more churches to the list, it's completely redrawing the map. It's revealing a whole new center of gravity for the entire faith. Okay, this comparison is just mind-blowing. A little over 100 years ago, in 1910, 2/3 of all Christians on Earth lived in Europe. It was, for all intents and purposes, a European religion. And today, the region with the most Christians is sub-Saharan Africa. That is just a seismic demographic shift. So what's going on here? Well, it's basically a tale of two very different trends. In the West, Europe and the Americas, we're seeing more and more people becoming religiously unaffiliated. You might have heard them called the nones. At the exact same time, Christianity is just booming in the global South, thanks to vibrant church growth and high fertility rates, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. But even with this huge shift south, here's a surprising little fact. The countries that still have the single largest Christian populations are in the Americas. We're talking the United States, Brazil, and Mexico. It just goes to show you how complex and layered this whole global story really is. Section 5, a future of fragmentation. Okay, so we've seen how the faith split apart and how its center has moved across the planet. So where is all this heading? I think the most important thing to take away from all this is that Christianity today is not one thing. It's not monolithic at all. It's a global faith that's defined by thousands of different traditions, adapting to countless cultures. And its energy, its growth, its entire demographic future, it's now centered squarely in the global South. That old picture of Christianity as a Western religion, it's simply not true anymore. And that leaves us with a final big question to think about. As the heart of Christianity keeps moving away from its old European centers, what new forms is it going to take? What new debates and new cultural expressions will define it in the centuries ahead? Well, that's the next chapter, and it's still waiting to be written.